Chapter 6. The colonel's wife, Sophia Petrovna Karpuhin, had only a moral resemblance to a magpie. Physically, she was more like a sparrow. She was a little lady, about 50, with sharp little eyes, with freckles and yellow patches all over her face. On her little dried-up body, perched on strong, thin, sparrow-like little legs, was a dark silk dress which was always rustling, for the colonel's lady could not keep still for 2 seconds. She was a spiteful and malignant gossip. She was mad on the fact of being a colonel's wife. She very often fought with her husband, the retired colonel, and used to scratch his face. Moreover, she used to drink 4 glasses of vodka in the morning, and as many in the evening, and had an insane hatred for Anna Nikolaevna Antipov, who had turned her out of her house the week before, as well as for Natalia Dmitrievna Paskudin, who had assisted in the operation. "I have only looked in for a minute, mon ange," she twittered. "I really ought not to have sat down. I have only come to tell you what marvelous things are going on among us. The whole town has gone off its head about that prince. Our wily ones, vous comprenez, are chasing him, hunting him down, snatching him from one another, regaling him with champagne. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. How could you bring yourself to let him go? Do you know that he is at Natalia Dmitrievna's now?" "At Natalia Dmitrievna's?" cried Marya Alexandrovna, jumping up from her seat. "Why, he was only going to see the governor, and afterwards perhaps to Anna Nikolaevna's, and was not going to stay long even there." "Not for long, I dare say. Catch him now if you can. He did not find the governor at home. Then he went to Anna Nikolaevna's, promised to dine with her, and Natalia Dmitrievna, who is always with her nowadays, has carried him off to her house for lunch. There's your prince." "And what about Mozgliakov? Why, he promised—" "Yes, your Mozgliakov indeed. You think a lot of him, don't you? Why, he has gone with him. You see if they don't get up a game of cards there, and he loses all his money as he did last year. Yes, and they'll make the prince take a hand too, and strip him like bark. And the things she is spreading about, that Natalia. She is crying aloud that you are trying to ensnare the prince, you know, with certain objects. Vous comprenez? She is talking to him about it. Of course he doesn't understand. He sits like a wet cat and says, oh yes, at every word. And she brought out her Sanka, only fancy, 15, and she still keeps her in short skirts, only down to the knees, so you can imagine. They sent for that little orphan, Mashka. She is in short skirts too, only above the knee. I looked through my lorgnette. They put some sort of red caps with feathers on their heads. I really don't know what it was meant for. And they made the 2 little magpies dance the Cossack dance to the piano before the prince. Well, you know his weakness. He was melting with ecstasy. Contours. He looked at them through his lorgnette, and they did distinguish themselves, the magpies. They got red in the face, they twirled their legs, and it was such an exhibition that I was shocked, and that was all about it. Phoo! Call that a dance? I've danced myself, the shawl dance, at the breaking-up party at Madame Jarny's select boarding school, and it really was a distinguished performance. I was applauded by senators. The daughters of princes and counts were educated there. But this was simply a can. I grew hot with shame. I grew hot. I simply could not sit it out. But surely you have not been at Natalia Dmitrievna's yourself? Why, yes, she did insult me last week. I say that straight out to everyone. Mais ma chère, I wanted to have a peep at that prince, if it was only through a crack in the door. I did go. For where else could I have seen him? I shouldn't have been to see her if it hadn't been for that horrid old prince. Only fancy, chocolate was handed round to everyone, but not offered to me, and they did not say a word to me all the time. She did that on purpose, you know. The tub of a woman! I'll pay her out. But goodbye, mon ange. I am in a hurry now, a great hurry. I must find Akulina Panfilovna and tell her. Only you may as well say goodbye to the prince now. He won't come back to you. You know he has no memory, so Anna Nikolaevna will certainly carry him off. They are all afraid that you, do you understand, on Zina's account.
Quelle horreur!
I assure you the whole town is talking of it. Anna Nikolaevna is set on keeping him to dinner and then to stay altogether. She is doing that to spite you, mon ange. I peeped into the servants' quarters. Such a bustle going on there. They are preparing the dinner. Such a clatter of knives. They have sent for champagne. Make haste, and catch him on the road when he is on his way to her. Why, he promised to dine with you first. He is your visitor, and not hers. To think of her having the laugh of you, the sly jade, the marplot, the filthy slut. Why, she is not worth the sole of my shoe, though she is the prosecutor's wife. I am a colonel's wife myself. I was brought up at Madame Jarny's select establishment. Phoo! Mais adieu, mon ange. I have my own sledge waiting, or I would have gone with you.
The walking newspaper vanished. Marya Alexandrovna was all of a tremble with excitement, but her visitor's advice was extremely clear and practical. There was no reason to delay, and indeed no time to be lost. But the chief difficulty still remained. Marya Alexandrovna flew to Zina's room. Zina, pale and troubled, was walking up and down the room, with her arms crossed and her head bowed. There were tears in her eyes, but there was a gleam of determination in the look she cast upon her mother. She made haste to hide her tears, and a sarcastic smile came on to her lips. "Mamma," she said before her mother could speak, "you wasted a great deal of your eloquence on me just now, far too much. But you did not blind me. I am not a child. To persuade myself that I am sacrificing myself like a sister of mercy, though I have no vocation for such a life, to justify the base deeds one commits from simple egoism with the pretense of honorable motives, all that is casuistry which cannot deceive me. Do you hear? That could not deceive me, and I want you to know that." "But, mon ange," cried Marya Alexandrovna, crestfallen. "Do not speak, mamma. Have the patience to hear me to the end. Though I fully recognize that it is Jesuitical casuistry, though I fully realize the utter baseness of such a proceeding, I fully accept your proposition. Do you hear? Fully. And I tell you I am ready to marry the prince, and even ready to second all your efforts to induce him to marry me. With what object I do so, there is no need for you to know. It is enough that I have made up my mind. I have made up my mind to everything. I will put on his boots for him. I will be his servant. I will dance to please him, to make up for my baseness to him. I will do anything in the world that he may not regret having married me. But in return for my decision, I insist that you tell me openly by what means you are going to arrange it all. Since you have begun speaking so insistently about it, you could not, I know you, have done so without having some definite plan in your head. Be open for once in your life at least. Openness is the indispensable condition. I cannot decide without knowing exactly how you intend to do it all." Marya Alexandrovna was so much taken aback by Zina's unexpected conclusion that for some time she stood facing her, dumb and motionless with amazement, and stared at her open-eyed. She had prepared herself to combat the obstinate romanticism of her daughter, of whose severe rectitude she stood in constant dread,
And now she suddenly heard that her daughter agreed with her and was ready to do anything, even in opposition to her principles. The whole affair was, in consequence, immensely simplified, and there was a gleam of joy in her eyes.
"Zinotchka!" she cried enthusiastically. "Zinotchka, you are my own flesh and blood!"
She could say no more, but flew to embrace her daughter.
"Oh, my goodness, I did not ask for your endearments, Mamma," cried Zina with impatient repulsion. "I don't want your raptures. I ask you for an answer to my question, and nothing more." "But, Zina, I love you, I adore you, and you repulse me. You know I am doing my best for your happiness."
And unfeigned tears glistened in her eyes. Marya Alexandrovna really did love Zina in her own way, and on this occasion, in her success and her excitement, she was brimming over with sentimental emotion. In spite of a certain narrowness in her outlook, Zina understood that her mother loved her, and that love was burdensome to her. She would have been more at ease indeed if her mother had hated her.
"Well, don't be angry, Mamma. I am so agitated," she said to soothe her. "I am not angry. I am not angry, my angel," Marya Alexandrovna twittered, reviving instantly. "Of course I know that you are agitated. Well, my dear, you insist on openness. Certainly I will be open, entirely open, I assure you. If only you would trust me. And to begin with, I must tell you that I have not yet a definite plan. That is, in full detail, Zinotchka, and indeed I could not have. A clever girl like you will see why. I foresee some obstacles, in fact. That magpie just now babbled all sorts of nonsense. Oh, my goodness, I must make haste. You see, I am entirely open. But I swear I will attain my object," she added with enthusiasm. "My confidence is not romancing, as you called it just now, my angel. It rests on a basis of reality. It is founded on the absolute feeble-mindedness of the prince. That is the canvas on which I can embroider what I like. The great thing is that they should not prevent me, as though those fools could outwit me," she cried, banging her hand down on the table with a gleam in her eye. "That is my affair, and what is most necessary is to begin as quickly as we can, so as to settle what is most important today, if only it is possible." "Very good, Mamma. Only listen to one more piece of openness. Do you know why I am so interested to know your plan and have no faith in it? Because I cannot rely upon myself. I have said already that I have made up my mind to this base action, but if the details of your plan are really too revolting, too dirty, I warn you that I shan't be able to endure it, and I shall fling it all up. I know that that is only an added baseness, to resolve upon vileness and to be afraid of the filth in which it is swimming, but there is no help for it. It will inevitably be so." "But, Zinotchka, what is there particularly vile in it, mon ange?" Marya Alexandrovna was protesting timidly. "It is nothing but making an advantageous marriage, and everybody does that, you know. You have only to look at it from that point of view, and it all seems perfectly honorable. Ah, Mamma, for God's sake, don't try to deceive me. You see, I agreed to anything. What more do you want? Please don't be alarmed if I call things by their names. That is perhaps my only comfort now." And a bitter smile came upon her lips. Well, that's all right, my angel. We can differ in our opinions and yet mutually respect each other. Only if you are anxious about the details and are afraid they will be nasty, leave all that business to me. I assure you that not a speck of dirt shall fall on you. Should I be willing to compromise you in people's eyes? Only rely on me, and everything shall be settled capitally with the utmost decorum. Above all, with the utmost decorum. There shall not be the slightest scandal. And if there should be the tiniest, unavoidable little bit of scandal, well, what of it? Why, we shall be far away then. We shan't stay here, you know. They can talk as much as they like. We can despise them. They will be envious, and they are not worth worrying about. I wonder at you, Zinotchka. But don't be angry with me. How can you, with your pride, be afraid of them? Oh, Mamma, I am not in the least afraid of them. You don't understand me a bit, Zina answered irritably. Well, well, my love, don't be angry. All I mean is that they are contriving some nasty plots every day of their lives, and here, just for once in your life— But how silly I am! What am I saying? It is not nasty at all. What is there nasty about it? On the contrary, it is perfectly honourable. I will prove that to you conclusively, Zina. I repeat, it all depends on how you look at it. Oh, do leave off, Mamma, with your arguments, Zina cried wrathfully, and she stamped impatiently. Well, my love, I'll say no more. I have said something foolish again. A brief silence followed. Marya Alexandrovna meekly waited for Zina to speak, and looked uneasily into her eyes, as a little dog who has done wrong watches its mistress. I don't understand how you are going to set to work, Zina continued with repugnance. I feel sure that you will only meet with ignominy. I despise their opinion, but for you it will mean disgrace. Oh, if that's all that is worrying you, my angel, please don't worry yourself. I beg you, I entreat you. If only we are agreed, you need not be anxious about me. Oh, if only you knew the storms I have weathered unharmed, the scrapes I have had to get out of. Well, only let me have a try. In any case, we must lose no time in getting the prince tete-a-tete. But that is the very first thing, and all the rest will depend on it. But I can foresee the rest. They will all be up in arms, but that does not matter. I'll settle their business. I am frightened of Mozgliakov, too. Mozgliakov? Zina pronounced with contempt. Why, yes, Mozgliakov. Only don't you be frightened, Zinotchka. I declare I'll bring him to such a pass that he will help us of himself. You don't know me, Zinotchka. You don't know what I am equal to in an emergency. Ah, Zinotchka, darling, when I heard about the prince a little while ago, the thought flashed upon my brain even then. My whole mind seemed full of light at once. And who could expect that he would come to us? Why, such an opportunity might not occur once in 1,000 years. Zinotchka, my angel, there is no dishonour in your marrying an old man and a broken-down cripple. But there would be in your marrying a man you could not endure, though you would really be his wife. And you won't be a real wife to the prince, you know. Why, it is not marriage. It is only a domestic contract. Why, of course, it will be a benefit to him, the fool. Why, it is bestowing priceless happiness on an old fool like that. Ah, how beautiful you are today, Zinotchka. Not beautiful, but a queen of beauty. Why, if I were a man, I would win you half a kingdom if you wanted it. They are all asses. How resist kissing this hand? And Marya Alexandrovna kissed her daughter's hand warmly. Why, this is my flesh and blood. We will marry him by force if need be, the old fool. And how we will arrange life, you and I, Zinotchka. You won't drive away your old mother when you are in luck, will you? Though we do quarrel, my angel, you have never had another friend like me, anyway. Mamma, if you have decided, perhaps it is time you were doing something. You are simply wasting time here, said Zina impatiently. "It is time, Zina, it is. Oh, I have been letting myself chatter too long," cried Marya Alexandrovna, catching herself up. "They are trying to entice the prince away altogether. I'll get into the sledge and set off at once. I'll drive round, call Mozgliakov out, and then... Yes, I'll bring him away by force if need be. Goodbye, Zinochka, goodbye, darling. Don't grieve, have no doubts, don't be sad. Above all, don't be sad. Everything will turn out splendidly. Everything shall be done with dignity and decorum. It makes all the difference how you look at it. Well, goodbye, goodbye." Marya Alexandrovna made the sign of the cross over Zina, whisked out of the room, twisted and turned before the looking-glass in her own room for a brief instant, and 2 minutes later was being whirled along the streets of Mordassov in her sledge, which was always at the door at that hour in readiness for paying calls. Marya Alexandrovna lived on Grand. "No, you won't outwit me," she thought as she sat in her sledge. "Zina consents, and that means half my task is done. And break down now? Nonsense! Ah, that Zina! She has agreed anyway at last. So some considerations do affect even her darling brain. I drew a tempting prospect for her. I touched her. But it is terrific how beautiful she is today. With her beauty I would have had Europe upside down to suit me. Oh, well, we'll wait and see. Shakespeare will fade away when she becomes a princess and gets to know a thing or two. What does she know? Mordassov and her schoolmaster. But what a princess she will be! I love in her that pride, that boldness. She is so unapproachable. She glances at you. It is the look of a queen. Why, how could she fail to see her advantage? She saw it at last. She'll see the rest. I shall be with her, of course. In the end she will agree with me on every point, and she won't be able to get on without me. I shall be a princess myself. I shall be known in Petersburg. Farewell, horrid little town. The prince will die, and that boy will die, and then I will marry her to a reigning prince. Only one thing I am afraid of. Didn't I confide too much in her? Wasn't I too open? Didn't I let myself be carried away by my feelings? She frightens me. Oh, she frightens me." And Marya Alexandrovna became engrossed in her meditations. Needless to say that they were of an active nature. But as the proverb has it, a good will does more than compulsion. Left alone, Zina spent a long time walking up and down the room with her arms crossed. She pondered over many things. Often and almost unconsciously she repeated, "It's time, it's time, it's high time." What did that fragmentary exclamation mean? More than once tears glistened on her long, silky eyelashes. She did not think of checking them or wiping them away. But there was no need for her mother to be anxious and to try to penetrate into her daughter's thoughts. Zina had fully made up her mind and was prepared for all the consequences. "Wait a bit," thought Nastasia Petrovna, threading her way out of the lumber room on the departure of the colonel's wife. "And I was meaning to put on a pink ribbon for the benefit of that wretched prince, and was fool enough to believe that he would marry me. Ah, Marya Alexandrovna, I am a slut. I am a beggar. I take bribes of 200 roubles, do I? I dare say I ought to have let you off and taken nothing from a swell like you. I took the money honorably. I took it for the expenses connected with the job. I might have had to give a bribe myself. What do you care that I demeaned myself to break the lock with my own hands? I did the dirty work for your benefit, while you sit with your hands in your lap. You have only to embroider on the canvas. Wait a bit, I'll show you the canvas. I'll show you both whether I am a slut. You will appreciate Nastasia Petrovna and her kindness.
Breaking in. In case you may have missed it, in this last scene, Nastasia Petrovna, who has been eavesdropping for the last 2 chapters, is responding to the scornful way in which Marya Alexandrovna described her role in the affair of Zina's letter to the schoolteacher. Nastasia Petrovna had saved the Moskalev family at the price of 200 rubles, but apparently received no gratitude from the bargain. By this point in our story, not only do we have the conflict in characters pretty thoroughly defined, but we also have a healthy, representative sample of what this little novel has to offer. The next 8 chapters will continue in the same vein, as we see various moves and countermoves in this petty strategy game, while the plot builds to its climax. Chapter 15, the final chapter, is the outlier, with a notable tonal shift as the narrator ties up loose ends. End of comments.